Hi, this is Suzanne Wachtel, and today's podcast is about turning life's lemons into lemonade. Now, some would say, what does that mean? To me, it means, and I've been using this expression for most of my life, is that when things get tough, when things become difficult, when life presents its challenges, how do you flip it and make lemonade? So in other words, when you have something difficult, sour that happens in your life, how do you add sweetness to it? How do you give it a positive flip and an outlook that will turn it into lemonade, a lesson learned, and something positive? So sometimes I use the example that when we go through a traumatic event, if you learn a lesson, if you learn from it, right, then it may have been a difficult thing, but you definitely come out more wise, more aware, more enlightened, and more knowledgeable. So, for example, let's give an example with a relationship. Let's take a young woman, a young man, they fall in love, they meet someone, they're very attracted to one another, they start to date, and things don't look like they're going in a good way. But they're at an age, perhaps in their late 20s, early 30s, where they feel it's time to be in a relationship, to take it seriously. All of their friends are getting married, all of their friends are having bachelorette and bachelor parties, and they've met someone that looks like they check off pretty much the list, but all of a sudden in the relationship things aren't going very well. Perhaps one of them decides that they're not going to be as involved, or that doesn't want intimacy as often, or their values are different, and because the couple was young and unaware, they didn't really understand that they needed to find out about one another more. So now the relationship progresses and they get very involved, and somehow it doesn't work out. Well, it could be a devastation and a really sad event. It could be a traumatic event. It could be super disappointing, or we can make lemonade. So how would you make lemonade in that case? Well, I would look at, what did we learn here? We've learned what we don't want. We've learned what we don't want in another person. We know now what we do want, which is someone who is attentive, somebody with a sense of humor, whatever it is that you need that you didn't get in that failed relationship. You now have the wisdom and the ability to walk through life and meet people and really know pretty quickly that this person is a hell yes or a hell no. Because that kind of situation is a numbers game. But if you don't know what you're looking for, then you'll never find them. Now, moving along to something else. Let's say you go to school and you think you want to be an attorney. I am using this as just a random example. And you go through all the school and all the expense and all the years, only to find out when you graduate that you don't like being an attorney, that you don't find it fulfilling, that it doesn't seem as rewarding as you once thought it would be. And that becomes a lemon. So how would you turn that situation into lemonade? Well, you could really think about what it is that fills you up, that gives you purpose, that you really do enjoy doing. And can your law degree be used in conjunction with that? Can you help people? Can you advise? Can you turn your career into something that really provides income, fulfillment, and knowledge? I once had a patient who actually became a doctor, and he really didn't like it at all. He did not like working in the medical field, but he did love, with passion, animals. And after all those years, as you know what goes into becoming a doctor, he actually quit his job and he wanted to be a medical assistant for pets, a pet assistant. And he went and took the courses and certifications and happily made lemonade out of that awareness. How else can you make lemonade with life's lemons? Well, let's say you have an illness. You discover you have an illness. You take life for granted. You don't really appreciate your day-to-day health, your ability to enjoy sports, enjoy breathing, enjoy just general life on its own. And now you have an illness. Perhaps it's a serious illness, perhaps not. But what would the lemonade be? The lemonade would be gratitude. The gratitude and the attitude that, wow, am I blessed? And no longer am I going to take for granted that I have good health. And if, let's say, something happens medically and you're compromised, you can't use an arm, you can't use a leg, and you figure out how to overcome that, and you figure out how to live life in spite of it, well, that's your lemonade. And there are many people that have nothing wrong, that feel sorry for themselves, that love to live in victim and complain and carry on. And then there are those that have plenty of things that have happened to them, and in spite of it, are determined to enjoy their life, to live to their fullest, to not let anything hold them back. Whatever their limits are, to live at least up to the limit. That would be the lemonade. Another thing, things happen to you, right? You go through life and things are going as planned, and you hit a wall, and you just can't continue. So when I was young, I rode horses and lifted weights, and I was in graduate school actually at the time, and I herniated a disc, and I literally went from being incredibly active, riding my horse a few days a week, taking care of my family, going to graduate school, having a full social life, to actually having to be in bed using a walker and trying all kinds of treatments to avoid surgery. So you say, that is a lemon. I had to put my studies on hold. I had to hire help because I could no longer drive on my own. And I became temporarily quite incapacitated. And while I was laying there in my bed thinking about, how do I flip this one? How do I turn this lemon into lemonade? And I realized, for the first time in my life, I was always a helper, a giver, a doer. I needed help. I needed to learn how to ask for help, how to rely on other people, and how to be patient while I healed, went through surgery eventually, and got back on my feet again. I was determined not to let it define me. I ended up going back, completing. I didn't take up riding again just because, but I've gone on to do yoga and all sorts of wonderful things. So that was how I turned that lemon into lemonade. Another one is I lost, a son 10 years ago. And that was a huge trauma. And during my healing, I always ask myself, how, universe, do I turn this into lemonade? How possibly? And while I was healing and taking care of myself, and when I was pretty fragile, I did a lot of self-contemplation and thinking. And I realized that by losing somebody at 27 years old, unnecessarily, I realized that life can go on a dime. In a moment, you can lose your life. Before that, I never felt that. I never felt that vulnerability, and I never realized that life can change on a dime, and that we need to really be grateful for every moment that we have and to really make the most of it. So I learned what life and death is about, and that for me was my lemonade. If I can enjoy something more because I suffered, then I learned from it. And I call that lemonade. So life will constantly throw lemons at you and put lemons in your path. But if you can learn the skill of turning life's lemons into lemonade, then you win. You win every time. It may be challenging. It might take time. It may not be easy. I'm not going to say this is easy, but this is a tool that you can use for the rest of your life, no matter what happens. You lose a fortune. You learn that the lemonade is how to survive without a fortune and still be happy. It's about just accepting with gratitude everything that happens in life, good and bad, and trying to flip what you learned from it and how can you think positive about it. Believing in lemonade is believing in positivity. And I am 100% a person that thrives on believing in positive thinking, flipping bad stories, flipping traumas, and really figuring out what life is about and how to feel positive and happy no matter what happens to you and no matter what hand that you are dealt. If you were dealt a wonderful family, well, God bless you, that's great. If you were dealt a challenging family, what can you learn? You learn to survive. You learned to do your best. You learn to love unconditionally. These are the lemonades that we learn from the lemons that life hands us. So that's it for today. I hope that you can share with me if you like, or just think about what lemons has life handed you and how did you handle them? Did you turn them into lemonade? Did you feel sorry for yourself and get stuck in victim? Or can you listen to this today and take whatever's going on or what's happened in your past, future, and present and try to learn to make lemonade that is sweet and delicious and really enlightening? I hope this has been helpful. And everybody have a wonderful day. And I hope you enjoy the cover to this podcast, which is my little grandson sucking on a lemon, only so that we can squeeze them out, add sugar, and we too can make lemonade. Have a beautiful day. Bye.